My name is Michael. I'm the fellow for the 2007-2018 academic year. We're going to be presenting over a presentation when we actually did our trip, went to Atlanta, Georgia, and so we went to a conference, and it was the Southern Nursing Research Society, and we titled it, Attending with the Unknown, the PhD, Living with the Desire to Obtain a PhD. And the students actually went with us is going to be Whitney and then Detra, and there's three other students that actually went with us as well. There's Cherry, Annie, and they're actually in Washington, D.C. right now. They're on a conference for leadership. And then there's Melissa. She lives in Midland. She couldn't make it. She's actually starting a new job. She's in transition moving and stuff, and she's on orientation. So she was not able to join us today. So there was a total of 6 of us going to this research conference and stuff. And prior to going and stuff, we had some objectives that we needed to meet before going up there. Every single one of us did a windshield survey and stuff, and that windshield survey had a few things that we had to do. We had to kind of look at the area prior to going and stuff, and we had to look at some of the disease process and how they were actually treating the disease process. And during that windshield survey, I think all of us came to the conclusion that the number one leading disease there was heart disease, and then the second disease was going to be the trachea cancer, and the third highest leading disease is going to be COPD and asthma exacerbation. We also looked at the population group there, and what the research that we actually did and stuff, it was saying that about 52% of the population was African American there. So when we actually went to these conferences and stuff, you actually see all these posters were actually kind of gearing somewhat to the African American population, since that is the biggest population there. So we'll go ahead and go further on this. Let's kind of talk a little bit about the history of the SNRS.
Okay, so Atlanta is known as the Peach State, if y'all don't know that already. It has the largest airport in the United States, which I didn't realize. And then SNRS is the Southern Nursing Research Society. It was established in 1986 by a group of nurses in Atlanta that, or in the South, that got together and wanted to create this society to empower nurses to research and further our practice. So the original states, there were 14 states originally, and then just recently they've added the Caribbean, Latin America, and the Bahamas to that as well. Do you want to talk about the interesting facts?
So some interesting facts.
Huh? Yeah, 230,000.
Okay. Roughly 230,000 people circulate daily in the airport. Goodness. Delta is the largest airline in Atlanta. Coca-Cola was founded in Atlanta, which is very strange because every time I tried to order Dr. Pepper, I could not get one. not a happy camper. Largest indoor aquarium in the United States, and has the second most shopping center spaces in the U.S.
So one thing we found, if you put Peachtree as your destination, there were 55 streets with that name in Atlanta, and there were several of them just downtown near where our hotel was. They were like Peachtree Drive and Peachtree Court and so many Peachtree streets. So then also the terminal, Michael thought it was interesting how everything was measured in football field lengths.
Yes. Once we actually get to the aquarium here in a minute, I'll go in football links because they were actually presenting and how big these tanks were. So once we actually get to that section stuff, we'll go over that.
So the terminal though at the airport is 45 football fields long. They call it a city in a forest, so it's a big city and then everything around it is just these lush, thick, forested trees. It's the next Hollywood, they say, and then it's also the headquarters of the CDC, which we did get to see.
Talking about the city of Forest, when I was actually doing the windshield survey as well, Atlanta is very well known at actually recycling their trees. So if there's actually a tree within the city that they don't want there, they'll actually go to remove it and move it within the city or in their surrounding areas and stuff. So they don't actually dispose any of their trees there. And when you get there, like she was saying, there's just tons and tons of trees everywhere. It's very green and lush. Talking about the Georgia Aquarium, this is one of the largest aquariums in the United States. They had 3 whale sharks, and they're massive. These pictures don't do justice on how big they are. And when there was a lady speaking, She says that this one tank itself was three football fields in length, and so you can imagine how big this tank was. Throughout this, there's different sections of the aquarium, and you can see that there's this albino alligator. I think previously they had two, but while we actually visited, there's actually only one that was actually there. We can go through the next one. There was these little, here's another whale shark. You can see that Dr. Long, and I think this is Melissa. We're going through this little tunnel, and this is where the whale sharks were actually going over us and stuff. And then over here you just have these coral reefs and stuff, which is just, I mean, it was just phenomenal. Here's Detra, and then here's Melissa. Again, Melissa was the one that wasn't able to join us, and then here's me, just kind of popping my head in this little penguin area. So, so there's just Melissa, and then these, Whitney, I'm sorry, and then this one ray. These things are massive. I mean, again, pictures don't justify how big they're huge.
This was GUS'S world famous chicken. So it was a short walk from our hotel. So we actually went the first day we got there, I think. But it was so good we went back our last night. So right in the middle of us all there, it was our waitress, and we had the same waitress both days. Her name was Red, and she was amazing and very much talked us through what we should order, and she was just a lot of fun, told us a little bit about the history of GUS'S world famous chicken, and it was really, really good. We had collard greens, and you can see it all. So yeah, we loved it so much we went back and took a picture with our waitress.
And we requested her the second time because we just loved her so much.
She was amazing.
So we had the privilege to actually go to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, which is CDC, and we're actually touring and stuff. We met a few people that actually were very interesting. I know Whitney and myself, we were trying to remember this nurse's name, and we cannot remember her name whatsoever, but I really wish we could get her name. I Googled her, and I can just not find her, but she was actually part of the Ebola when we were actually going through that crisis back in 2014.
Yeah, 14, 15. She took care of the doctor that was brought back and the nurse that was sent from Dallas Presbyterian to Emory. And she was able to care for them in their special Ebola care center there at Emory's hospital. So just hearing her talk about the process, I mean, as an ER nurse, we have to practice donning and doffing our Ebola gear every year. It's like one of our competencies. And so for us in Lubbock, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, it's kind of a joke. We all put our stuff on and we take our pictures every year and we take it off. But to hear her talk about how important that was and how much you were relying on your teammate to know their process of donning and doffing, because it was like a team approach. You had to have somebody help you get dressed. You go in the room, there had to be somebody else dressed outside, and then they had to help you doff everything when you came back out. And so you really had to rely on each other. And so to me, to listen to her, and she goes around the country and speaks, which is one of the reasons I really wish I could remember her name. But I just thought she was fascinating to listen to, the amount of experience she had and the firsthand knowledge she had with dealing with that. It was, and being in the CDC when you're getting this lecture from her was just really cool.
So as we're at the CDC, there's actually 3 different levels and stuff. The top level was primarily about the Ebola and stuff, and so she discussed, talks about the timeline, how Ebola started and where it was originated and stuff. He got to the second level and it talked about a different disease process, and he got to the first level, and then it goes back to all these, the little iron machine, and then talks about these backpacks and stuff. But it's very interesting because it goes in timelines and it talks about the history of things, how we find things in the practice and how we're evolving and just improving things and stuff. So it's very, very interesting to see where we were back then and where we are now. So if you ever get the chance to ever go to Atlanta, Georgia, I think there's some BSS students here. I think they're going to be doing this again next year. So if you actually get into a master's program, this is probably one of the trips to look forward to, okay? So just jump on it next year if you can go.
It was really cool. One of my favorite things that I saw was when they used to have to trace like a disease, like to find the original point, and it was all done by hand. And so it was like this paper, and it was this teeny tiny writing, and it was just like this huge mess of trying to organize that. And I just think to go from that to today, like how far we've come was kind of cool to see it on the walls there.
This right here was a group that we all went with. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. There is a doctor, her business card right here. And we also met another student. Her name is Sammy. She's actually from University of Florida. And she was actually there with her, but Dr. Cazell. And she works at Cook's. And so she's going to be right here behind the blue. You can't really see her. She's kind of cut out. But we had a very interesting conversation on the way up there. We actually were introduced by Dr. Long. And so Melissa and I, on the way up there and on the way back to the actual conference, we discussed a few things. And so she was very, very interesting to talk to on a few topics. So live in Atlanta, this is right here is just from our hotel room and stuff. From the hotel, you can actually see Emory University. It's not very far from our hotel. You really had to probably zoom into this picture and stuff. And then also there's Emory University Medical Center. And while we got there, Dr. Long told us that was actually one of her first jobs and stuff, working in the ER. She talked about her first case was a gunshot wound, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, that was another interesting fact when we got there as well. So we didn't realize that Dr. Long actually worked at Emory. So you can go on to the next one. So some of the conferences that we actually attended and stuff, on the very first day, we were kind of surprised on one of the conferences and stuff. And so one of the conferences was over a community-based driven. And so Dr. Sutters, and there's a few other doctors there that actually presented there. But it was kind of a group experience. We got there, the whole conference, just in general, every conference that we went to was very interesting and stuff. But that very first day we got there, we were kind of taken by surprise. The topic that they talked about was community-based and stuff, and how they were trying to get into these rural health communities and trying to get healthcare providers out there and trying to get funding and grants and stuff, and trying to get care to them. And at the end, or kind of in the midst of this, they decided to do group projects and stuff, and so we actually had to get up and present. We got in groups, and so when we actually got there, Whitney would tell you as well, we wanted to sit in a group, but it seemed like all the tables were actually taken, so we had kind of split up. So I know part of the group is here, part of the group is over here. So we were able to work in different groups, but it was just kind of taken by surprise because we didn't actually expect to kind of get up and present in front of everybody else.
We were sitting at tables with PhDs and PhD students, and people that have been researchers for a while, and we're getting thrown into this group project with these PhDs and PhD researchers. And it was very intimidating when we first heard that this is what we were going to do. But it actually turned out to be one of our favorite experiences, I think, for all of us. Everyone was so welcoming and so engaging, and I felt like we all had good ideas and stuff that we brought to the table that helped make our group project successful. And so
in my group, I had 2 individuals from South Korea, so you can imagine there's just people coming from all over the world and stuff. So they came in, they actually presented, I think the last day we were there, us with them presenting and over cell phones and how that actually interacts with health. So we had 2 from South Korea in my group and 1 from Hawaii as well. She was actually the one that was actually doing part of the presentation. Again, Whitney says it was kind of intimidating to be there with their PhDs and stuff, but let me tell you, they're very, very welcoming and stuff. And they will tell you, we sat there in the networking that we did and stuff while we were there talking to everybody. They're just like normal people. You expect that. I mean, you get there, it's like kind of intimidating and stuff. And so, you expect them, and they will tell you, they themselves, every day when they're going to work and stuff, they had to pull out books, they had to reference things. There's, looking at some of the research and stats and stuff, and it can be scary talking about these t-tests, chi-tests, and I mean, it's so scary to think about. But they're going to tell you as well, they pull out the books and they look at that, they reference it. So don't feel that you cannot pull out books and reference those things when you actually further your education on that matter. This is going to be Dr. Long. She did present there as well. I couldn't actually fit the whole entire thing, but hers was going to be over functional magnetic imaging and the obesity prevention stuff. I was a little late to this one. And again, I went to a wrong session apparently. So at this time, I went to a session, it was a special session, and it was over senior scientists. And let me tell you, talking about a little bit uncomfortable feeling at that time. So I got to this conference or this little session, and when I sat there, I was noticing that there was just a few people just coming in, and at the very beginning it says, this is off mic, we're not recording this, and it's like, okay, this is a little different. It's like most of these conferences are being recorded and stuff. And so they're coming in, and they're walking, it's like, oh, here's a previous president, oh, here's another president, oh, here's another president. It's like, oh, there's a lot of leadership here. So the doors closed, and they started talking, and they talked about these boards, and so I'm like, And then, so all these senior scientists, and so what caught my attention was about the mentorship, because on these little pamphlets and stuff, they talk about what this conference was about. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this because it's talking about mentoring, something that I was actually interested in. Well, they were discussing a few things, and it's like, okay, I don't think I'm supposed to be hearing this. And so I'm like, all right. And then I made eye contact with one of these previous presidents and stuff, and she's kind of like, who is this? And at that moment, I knew I was not where I was supposed to be. So I quickly text Dr. McNeil. I met Dr. McNeil prior to going to here. And she's actually part of the senior scientists and stuff, and I quickly messaged was like, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong session. If they ask, tell them I do apologize. So I quickly left, and then I actually was able to catch a tail end of Dr. Long's presentation. So I'm not sure if Whitney wants to discuss
Yeah, her presentation was very interesting. She talked about the functional magnetic imaging and obesity prevention and how they were taking pictures of people. I don't know if you want to talk about it more than they were taking pictures of people's brains when they were looking at pictures of the food they were eating, and they found a difference in when they saw just a generic picture of like a bag of McDonald's versus the actual food that they were going to consume, the real tangible food. It lit up in different parts of the brain. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So it was a very interesting lecture. And there was a whole panel of them that talked about different things, but we got to hear Dr. Long present on our trip, which was neat.
So along the way, we're actually making a few friends. Well, we consider friends. This lady right here, she just got done finishing her PhD. She went to the University of Miami. I just got in touch with her, inquiring about the program, and her name is Chantel Washington, or Dr. Washington. And then over here, we actually met Dr. Corwin, and she actually teaches at Emory University and stuff, and we just had a great time with them. When we actually met with Dr. Corwin, prior to actually meeting her, our reservations was kind of divided into two tables and stuff. I think one table had 6 and one table had 7, and they couldn't get us into one big table. So when we first got there, the LCU group was kind of just sat in one table, kind of away from Dr. Corwin and stuff, and she did a phenomenal job just making sure she was able to sit with us. She asked for a different table set aside for us, and she sat down with us, and she allowed Dr. Long to sit with the other group and stuff. And I asked her, do you know any of those people from the other table? And she says, no, I don't. So I really, really had to commend her and thank her on that aspect of actually just sitting down and just talking to us. She was really engaged with Whitney.
She's very interesting to talk to, yeah.
Because I think Whitney's going to be doing research in statistics this summer and stuff, and so she's kind of bouncing off ideas what Dr. Corwin is, and it's just kind of guiding her and what questions to ask and stuff. So she's phenomenal. I really, really enjoyed talking to her.
And our next slide is about her, actually.
So again, this is going to be Dr. Corwin. So I kind of threw in some slides and stuff because again, I think every single one of us actually went there was interested into a PhD program. So one of the programs that we were able to come across was Emory University. And so to meet the criteria to get into the program and stuff, you actually need 3 letters of recommendation. You also need to do your GRE. It has to be within the last 5 years. You also need 3-letter references. They prefer PhD or faculty from the academic area. And one good thing about the program, which I found very interesting, they actually give a full tuition waiver. if you go full-time, and they actually give you a stipend monthly, and looking at their website, I think their tuition monthly was $3,125 a month that they'll actually give you monthly. And they also give you full health insurance as well. But in return, you have to do, there's two different criteria. So you can do an assistance to research or assistance to teaching, and that's how you can actually qualify for that. There's a few things that actually their focus is on: Alzheimer's disease, cancer, cardiovascular health, caregiver-led well-being, evidence-based practice are just a few choices that they actually offer at Emory University. I actually met Dr. Kinzer. She's actually at Virginia Commonwealth University. This is one that's actually going to be one of my interests as well. She was actually really wanting to start this fall. She goes, "Oh, we can get you this fall." I was like, "No, we're good." So I still got to finish my coursework. And so she goes, "No, even though you're not done with your master's, we can get you in." I'm like, I'm good for right now. But she's phenomenal. I mean, her and her dean was there as well. I actually got to meet them in the networking as well. And so again, theirs is a 61-hour program. They do as well need 3 letters of references, and theirs actually does not need a GRE that is required to get into the program, which is good. And then also the biobehavioral, they're actually focused on biobehavioral and the healthcare quality research. Looking at their website, I think they have like maybe 15 faculty, and so I found 2 that I kind of think I can match with if when I want to go on for my PhD. You want to go on to this? This right here is Dr. Rollett. She's actually at the University of Maryland School of Nursing. It's funny because when actually we're leaving and stuff, she was in the same van with us going to that thing. And so she was actually working on the grant. I can't remember what she was working on. And she was phenomenal, speaking with her and everything. And they actually, if you're actually interested in the program, either a master's, BSN, they actually have one for the CRNA and PhD. They actually have a live virtue. So if you're actually interested in the program, you can actually go to their websites and actually interact and engage with the faculty live. And I think they got one May 9th and May 29th when I was looking at their website. They actually have different programs, BSN to PhD, which is a 78-hour course, and then their MSN to PhD, which is 60 hours. Theirs takes about 4 years to complete, and they actually need a GRE as well within the last 5 years. Dr. Monroe, we met as well. I didn't know anything about University of Miami, but Dr. Long was able to introduce us to her towards the end of the conference and stuff. Very, very knowledgeable and very interesting. And one reason she stuck out to me is because they're actually going to be doing a research topic over dementia. So I've been doing my research on Wernicke's encephalopathy, which it does have dementia with it. So it really sparked my interest. So I actually got her email address. I'm going to be emailing her here within a couple of weeks as well, just to see when is the perfect time to go down and just meet their faculty, because this is one program that was actually one of my interests as well. Their program offers the same thing as Emory. Theirs is a full tuition as well. You do have to do assistance with them. I think it's 20 hours a week, and then you also get a stipend as well, a monthly stipend. So that's one of the good things about their program. University is Tyler, and this is where I met Dr. McNeil. I got in touch with Dr. Chilton prior to going to this conference. So I reached out because this was one program that was actually one of my interests as well. So I met Dr. Chilton. We had a video conference as well. And she told me that there was going to be a board presentation by Dr. McNeil. So I was able to get in touch with Dr. McNeil while there. Dr. McNeil spoke to a few of us. I can't remember. I think there was 2 of us that wasn't there that was not able to talk to Dr. McNeil. But she spoke really highly of the program and stuff. It's here in Texas. It's actually one of the cheapest PhD programs in the state of Texas. I think for the MSN to the PhD, I think it's roughly about $26,000, which is fairly reasonable, I believe. And again, they need a GRE and 3 letters of recommendation as well. I'll actually be going to University of Tyler June 4th. I've got my and meeting the dean and also meeting Dr. Chilton as well, since this is one of the programs I'm actually interested in going to. So I'll be meeting them this summer.
This also, the program is it 1 weekend a semester?
So,
that you go to campus?
Yeah, so this one, for their campus, you do, during the summer, everything's online with this program. The only time that you have to go to campus is 1 week during the summer, and that is it. And then everything else is going through online. There is a professor at Texas Tech, and her first name is Erin, I don't remember her last name. Gibson is actually in this program, and she spoke really, really highly of this program as well. So again, I looked at their faculty, and I'm just going to talk to Dr. Chilton and just see who I can actually mentor with again, since it's one of the programs I'm actually interested in going to. This one right here is the University of South Florida. This is one that Melissa was interested as well. Melissa is not here to present, but she did post a video, and she would actually get in depth about this program stuff. She said that she actually got to meet Dr. Grower. Is that Grower? They just really hit it off very well. They were actually introduced to each other through a PhD student, Sammy, on the bus.
Yeah.
We went to the CDC and stuff, and
Sammy sat down next to me and we just started talking, and she started talking about how she was studying gut microbiome in infants, which is what Melissa is really interested in. And so I said, oh, you need to meet Melissa, and then her and Melissa started talking, and she said Dr. Grower's coming, and Dr. Grower does her research in this, and so Melissa made a lot of connections that way, but it all just started, just an empty seat on the bus. And Sammy was fascinating. We ran into her multiple times, and she's actually in Washington right now and is planning to meet up with Annie and Cherry while they're in Washington.
this right here is Dr. Sutter. This is one of those presentations that the very first day we got there, she was talking about the community-based participatory research. We met her sister, they were twins and stuff, phenomenal, and they did a great presentation and stuff, and they were very engaged in the group, and it was just, they were just phenomenal.
That's probably one of my favorite lectures, next to the one that we're going to talk about next, the pigs.
Oh, let's just talk about that.
The pigs. We got to, one of the keynote speakers she did all this research in, it was in the Congo.
Mm-hmm.
And she started by, she wanted families to have something that they could use as like money for them. So she went and met up with a guy that was local there, and he talked to her and told her that the best thing would be pigs, because pigs were okay for females to own, but there were other animals that weren't. So they thought pigs were good, pigs are easy to keep, easy to breed, and they can use them as money to pay for things like their children's hospital bills and things like that in this country. And so they started with, it was a very small number of pigs, and they would give a pig to the family, and the family would breed the pig, and they paid back the loan of the pig with 2 pigs. And so they got their pig, they paid, when their pig had pigs, piglets, they paid back with 2 pigs. They took one and donated it to, or they took them and donated them on. So it was like they were getting a pig, but they weren't in debt to anybody because they were going to pay back their debt. And so it was a sense of pride for these people. And then they had to build the pen for the pig, and then they had money. And so these women were empowered because they were able to contribute to their families. And then she's grown this project, is huge now, and she started doing rabbits for children. And so the children, like ages 12 and up, could keep rabbits. And so they started the same kind of system, they get a rabbit, they breed the rabbit, and then they pay back. And then the rabbits they actually use as a food source in their country. And so it's just very empowering for the people and what she was doing in their community. And she kept talking about how she never thought in her wildest dreams that her nursing research would involve pigs. But it was just something that was so different, but so fascinating listening to her talk about what she did with pigs.
And some of the, because again, she was going to these communities, and some of these communities did not want to participate because they wanted goats, because the goats produce milk and stuff. So a lot of these communities did not want to actually engage in this this project that she was doing. She actually noted that the reason why she used pigs because offsprings, they had quite a bit in their litter and stuff. So, and also as well as rabbits, their offsprings, they produce large amounts of offsprings and stuff. So that's another reason why they chose the pig and the rabbits on that part. This is a link to Facebook. It's a little clip. It was just talking about, I think Melissa, we would have to actually log into Facebook, so we can actually bypass that. And so, and then Detra's going to speak on Cherry's behalf since she's not here. So,
Okay, this is Cherry's takeaway. During the SNRS conference, she was able to attend the workshop about community-based participatory research. Through the workshop, I was able to learn about differences between education, practice grants, and research grants, strategies to extend the involvement of the community agency and an EPG to research focusing on CBP, as well as participating in an interactive group work that utilized learned strategies from this workshop. Top students, posters, presentations were a great learning experience. She truly enjoyed this section as each student only had 5 minutes to present the prominent information of their research. Information presented was straightforward and informative. She was able to listen to Dr. Glass's speech and was very impressed with her microfinance programs, Pigs for Peace and Rabbits for Resilience, addressing the interlinked health, social, and economic well-being of individuals, their families and communities in South Kivu. I'm just like, listen to the Democratic Republic of Congo. She had a great experience during the SNRS conference. She met so many inspirational PhD students and professors in different PhD programs. Our group was lucky enough to have a great dinner experience with Dr. Corwin, talking to her about the PhD programs and research tips. Throughout the conference, she was able to learn about and evaluate the differences in community, local, state, and national, social, economic, as well as health policy issues and trends by using healthcare research for consumers and community officials. She was also able to utilize and learn skills from CBPR workshop to assess whether the systems met the needs of the populations served are culturally, spiritually relevant. Overall, the experience of global community health was great. I am very thankful to be a part of the LCU and be able to go to this conference. Thank you, Dr. Long and other faculty, and for making this trip become true.
Okay, this is Annie's takeaway. Annie said, the community-driven health research workshop was a standout moment in what turned out to be a long series of superlative and inspirational experiences. The workshop gave us the opportunity to sit down with experts in the field of community-led research who helped us to synthesize the information presented at the workshop. This allowed us to leverage several of our skills acquired during the course of our educations and work experience to come up with an idea and work through the steps of developing it into a feasible project. Our group was truly global because our group included a PhD from South Korea and our team leader was from Hawaii. And then we presented our ideas, which just goes to show that if I can speak extemporaneously, wow, she's got a big vocabulary, in front of a room of highly educated and accomplished strangers, I can do it anywhere. My favorite plenary speaker was Dr. Nancy Glass, who spoke on the community-partnered interventions to improve economic security, health, and gender equity in conflict-affected and fragile settings. In other words, pigs for peace. I loved that she was brave enough to go to a conflict zone, find collaborators from the community, and develop a program that would be impactful, sustainable, and growable. I was honored to be an attendee with such talented peers and an absolutely wonderful mentor and teacher, Dr. Long. She created many opportunities for us to have inspiring and exciting interactions and conversations that we would not have experienced without her tireless advocacy and networking skills. I am always proud to be an LCU student, but the Atlanta conference really showed me how special my school is and how proud I am to represent this little diamond in the desert.
And here's Melissa. She wasn't able to come, so she actually presented. She's going to present a little video for us.
Hello, I'm Melissa. Due to prior engagements, I wasn't able to be there in person today, but I still wanted to share my takeaway and my experience from the SNRS conference. So first of all, I want to start by thanking Dr. Long for encouraging me to go to this conference. She told me she thought it would help me see research through a new lens, in which it did. It opened my mind. It showed me a whole new genre of nursing. Before this conference, I have a background in clinical research coordinating, and before this conference, I thought my career in that little subspecialty was a bit dead-ended, because in order to climb the career ladder in the industry and big pharma studies, you have to be based in a major city, Chicago, Seattle, stuff like that. And so not seeing myself moving from this rural area anytime soon, I really thought there was no upward mobility in my career as in clinical research. However, going to this conference really opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, I can do this, I can do nursing research anywhere. So, oh God, I cannot thank Dr. Long enough for having the forethought to acknowledge my background and my strengths, and encouraging me to go to this conference. So I very much appreciate her coming on board and getting us involved in creating this course so that we could go to this conference. It's so beneficial, you don't even know. First, I would like to talk about a couple of ladies that I met while I was at conference. The first one is Dr. Maureen Grower. She is like the grandma of nursing research. She is so warm and welcoming, and she's just fantastic. She is a professor at the University of South Florida. She holds a professorship in the College of Nursing and the College of Internal Medicine. She has a state-of-the-art lab. They do RNA sequencing there. She runs all her own samples. She does her own bench research, and it's just phenomenal work they're doing. I just had no idea nursing was doing the research at this caliber. So, so blessed to have met her. A little bit about the PhD program at the University of South Florida. It is a hybrid program, meaning you go to campus, you go to Tampa, Florida, 3 times a semester, every single semester. And that is because it is a nursing science program. It is when you go to campus, you are working in the lab, in Dr. Grower's lab, and you are running your own samples on the research that you are doing for your project and dissertation. So big nursing science thing. So fantastic. It would be phenomenal to be able to go to this program. However, being from a rural area and not seeing myself moving to a large academic center or a large city anytime soon, I don't think I would be working in a lab. So great experience, great lady to meet, but as far as suiting my PhD needs, I don't think this program does that. I will talk about, briefly, I want to step back and just say, one thing I learned from Dr. Long at this conference and from all the other PhD prepared nurses that we met, a common theme was choose a program that's right for you. So although Dr. Grower's program and the University of South Florida's program may not be right for me, the University of Texas at Tyler possibly could be, because I have, after attending a workshop with this next lady I'm going to introduce, I really loved the idea of focusing on community and rural health. It's something I can utilize where I'm at, in the rural communities where I am, it can benefit the communities. And from just Dr. Sutter, I learned a way in which I can go to the grassroots of the population and the communities and build research from the bottom up. So Dr. Sutter works at the George Mason University. She's a DNP there. And she introduced to us community-based participatory research. And this is doing research with people, not on people or populations, but actually with the people, bringing the community into the research process. So, she hits big on going and introducing yourself to people in the community, building relationships with them, interviewing them, finding out what they need, what will work best for them. Why are they not making it to their doctor's appointments? Why are they non-compliant with their medications? Do they have a poor diet? Are they living in a food desert? Do they not have transportation to get them to the specialists that they need? And then how can we intervene? How can we create interventions to help them improve on these situations and meet these healthcare goals that they have? So a big thing that she brought home was be sure in whatever intervention you do provide the community, make sure it's sustainable. Don't have a grant for a year and implement something on that grant. And then after that year, the grant is gone, and so therefore the intervention is gone. And what have you done now? You've lost the trust of the people. So you want to make sure it's a sustainable intervention, whatever you bring into the community. And then, of course, don't forget your metrics. Always log your metrics so that you can go back and do an analysis on this intervention and on this project and see if it worked. And you can write and publish with that. So, love Dr. Sutter. I actually went up to her after the workshop and described, kind of spoke with her in brief about where I'm at in the Permian Basin and how, because of the oil field, there's a lot of super commuters, there's a big transient population. A lot of people are using ER and urgent care as our primary care physicians. There's a huge need for healthcare in the area. And just how I think that I could bring this community-based participatory research into my community and implement something. And she was just like, yes, you have to do this. You're primed for this. Your area is primed for this. You need this in your area. This is how you can, help solve problems. Let the people help you solve the problems and get the stakeholders involved. And, she is very, very encouraging and is willing to mentor me through this process. So I've connected with her in LinkedIn and email, and we're going, she's there. She's ready to help answer any questions and help me get started in this. So I foresee myself using this CBPR model in my PhD work. And a fun side fact, I was in line at brunch the other day at Wall Street Bar and Grill, a very popular little spot for brunch. And I ran into a Dr. Jones, and she has a PhD of Christian Sciences and Counseling, Family Life Counseling, something like that. And she was brought in by Midland Police Department and ISD to help find ways to improve kids' life. The population here is such, the cost of living is very high, the hours in the oil field are very long, parents are stressed, they're bringing home their stress, these kids are feeling it, they're feeling it academically and socially. And so they brought this woman in to try to help find out how that they can improve and create programs to help these kids better themselves and not be so impacted by the stresses of the environments that their parents have to live in just to make a living. So I was like, well, are you measuring interventions? Are you collecting metrics on what y'all are doing, what you plan on doing? I was like, I'm gonna clinical research coordinator and an RN. I'm in a graduate program, and you know, I would love to be involved. And so she just got that happy, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in front of me. The Lord has placed me here, placed you in front of me kind of face. And you know, we exchanged emails, and I'm going to start working with them on projects moving forward. And I have probably bitten off way more than I can chew, and probably gotten myself into a project larger than I'm ready to be a part of right now. But I would have never ever engaged this woman had it not been for this conference. Dr. Long, she took us around to all these people, and she introduced us and really showed us the networking and how, you know, just sparking a little conversation. And it just has to be your 3-minute elevator speech, you know, can help bring teams together. It happened with Dr. Sutter, it happened in, you know, my hometown in Midland. Whereas before this conference, Dr. Jones would have said, oh yeah, I'm here for this. And I would have, oh, that's nice, how's Midland going? You know, I really wouldn't have engaged her because of this program, or this conference. It really showed me, it not only showed me that nurses are doing high quality research and that a PhD is within my reach, but it also helped show me the importance of networking. So super, super blessed to have gone to this conference. I kind of want to end by bringing home some global health objectives, because we did go for a class. So at this conference, I really, really learned how PhD prepared nurses can impact culture on a local and a global level. They really are experts in bringing multidisciplinary stakeholders to the table to implement projects. And the community-based participatory research model helps empower patient populations to improve the community wellness and within their communities. And to drive this home, we listened to a keynote speaker that she is implementing Pigs for Peace in the Congo. And what they did is they went to, she visited the communities in the Congo for a few years, and then she kind of got to know the people and the culture, and she identified needs. And then she talked to these people about how can we, implement something to meet your needs. And so they ended up with this Pigs for Peace. And it's using pigs as a barter system, essentially. They didn't want to use goats because goats are part of the dowry system, and they didn't want to impede on the culture. They wanted women to be just as involved as men. And if it were goats, then women can't have goats because that's part of their dowry. It would have been highly frowned upon in the community and the culture, and the program probably would not have worked. So they chose pigs, nice neutral animal. And they told them how to care for the pigs, how to breed the pigs, how to exchange in breeding programs, and how to sell the pigs. And so they could sell a pig for $20-$40 and send their kids to school for the year. So nursing not only can look at a community-based level where they live, they look at the local level, but they can also stretch out and improve cultures globally as well. So wonderful conference. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really opened my eyes to the next step in my career and my academic goals. And I'm ready to really go those extra several miles in working towards a PhD. One quick side note though I want to say is the common theme with all the ladies we spoke with was, if you're looking to go in to a PhD program, do it right after your master's degree. Don't wait a few years and then go into it. Because number one, your family, everyone is already trained. You're used to the workload, you're used to the work-life family balance, your family's used to you studying all the time, so just jump right in and do it. So here we go. But anyways, thank you for your time, and I hand you over to whoever's next in line. Thank you.
So all in all, it was just a phenomenal experience. One of the things I kind of forgot to mention was there was so many people that were just so amazed that we were just, not just, but we were master students and stuff there, and how a school was able to sit a group there. So again, the people were there actually to be said, just you're very lucky to be in a program that really cares for you. So just take every opportunity they give you. So, and that is our presentation. Any questions?
I think y'all left me 2 minutes
I'm sorry.
to do an invited
Little
response. Little yacky-doos. Well, we think it's always exciting whenever students take that leap and go, maybe a PhD is not so scary. Because I would guarantee all of you, when you were starting your associate degrees, your bachelor's degrees, you weren't at that point because you didn't see that you had the ability to make that jump. I think what happens is you think that we are on a different level than you, and we're something that you can never aspire to be, which in reality, we're just goobers and we just plug along and we just do the best we can, just like you will do. And I loved that the doctorally prepared people you met were welcoming. I love that, because what that does is that brings you in, and you realize they're just people too, and they're able to do it, and it makes you feel like I can do this. One of the things, the takeaway I had from what everyone said was that each of you have something to offer. All of us as nurses have something to offer to make change. All of it had to do with change. We're not satisfied with the status quo, and we know that we can change it. Nurses have that ability. We're good fixers. You know, give us a tongue depressor and some tape, and we can do anything with it. And so, taking that to that next step with that education helps you to be able to make those changes, helps you do the pigs for peace or whatever it is you're going to be doing. And you may not do pigs for peace, you may do something totally different. So I have some quotes for you. You've got to have a dream. And Eleanor Roosevelt said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dream. You've got to be able to say, this is what I want to do. I dream about it, I want to do it. You have to have the dream first. So Laura, back there, you got to have the dream. So you got to think, I can do this. Si se puede. I can do this. Yes, I can do this. I told you all along, even when you were getting your associate's degree, you could do this. And here you are. You have to realize that you are capable of doing it. I tell nurses all the time, nurses are the smartest people I know. They can do anything they want to do. They're so creative. They're far smarter than any physician that they're working with, because they are there 100% of the time and giving 100% of themselves. They're not in a patient's room for 5 minutes and then gone. They're there. They're noticing what's happening. They are the ears and the mouth and the eyes of that patient. And they're sharing that to be able to provide the best quality care. Don't talk yourself out of it if you have a dream. If you've got a dream, it can happen. I don't care if you're poor, because I never had money. And Cindy, you probably never had money. She was a single mom, never had money. How did we get through doctoral programs? You just put one foot in front of the other. Joanne was poor. Her husband was faculty somewhere. She was poor. You just put one foot in front of the other, and it happens. It happens, and before you know it, you're done. Sometimes it takes a little longer than the before you know it. Don't say you don't have enough time. You have exactly the same number of hours a day that were given to Helen Keller, Michelangelo, Mother Teresa, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Jefferson, and Albert Einstein. They didn't have any more time in the day than you have. So if you're thinking, I can't squeeze one more thing in, Yes, you can. You can do it. You set priorities for yourself. So it's really important that you realize that you can do that. And finally, in the wise words of the great philosopher, Dr. Seuss, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know. You're the guy who will decide where to go. You just have to do it. And I love that you guys came back motivated and empowered. The thing is, intentional. You've got to be intentional. So now you're at this point, now what? Now you find people that have those degrees and you say, tell me how you did it. How did you get there? How did you make that next step? Who did you contact? Because you know, we're not born knowing those things. You just find them at every level of my education. When I was an LVN, I would see an ADN nurse on the floor or a nurse instructor. I'd say, what did you do? How did you get your degree? Where did you go to school? How long did it take? Was it hard? Ask them the questions. They'll share with you. I guarantee they'll share with you. Ask at every level. Find people that can mentor you, and we all have them. We all have those people that surround us, that hold us up, because we all want you to succeed. We would love for everyone in this room to have a doctorate. We would love that, because what it does is it advances nursing science. It advances the profession. It moves us forward. We would love it because very quickly we're going to be in the healthcare system and we need you guys to be solving problems for us. So you can do it. Don't think that I'm not smart enough, I'm not tall enough, don't even talk those negative talks. You can do it. I always in the back of my mind told myself, stupider people than me have done this. I can do it. And I always remembered that. And you know what? You just keep going. I'll never forget sitting in my graduation for my PhD, and I'm sitting there, and they have these, you buy the regalia that cost a fortune, and you have to get a loan for it, but you know you want it, and they're custom fit. They measure your arms, they measure your height, the hat is measured to fit your head, and they're custom made. So I'm sitting there in the most expensive clothes I'll ever wear in my life, only 2 or 3 times a year, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, something weird is happening to me. And my hat that was custom fit is sliding down on my head, and it's like right here, and it's supposed to be up here. And I looked at the girl next to me, I said, it's happening. She said, what? And I said, my brain is shrinking. I finished school and my brain is shrinking, so just expect that. Your brain may shrink a little bit when you get out, but you'll be fine. You still got plenty. And now I just have to bobby pin the hat on, even though it's too big. So you can do this. I'm proud of you guys. If anyone have any questions about doctoral programs, find the good fit. I checked out all the doctoral programs that were around at that time. I found one that really met my research interest because I knew I needed their support. I needed their help. I didn't know squat about research. I had done a master's thesis, but I really didn't. I was drugged through it. I really didn't know, but I knew they knew, and they could help me. So find the people that know and love what you do, what you're interested in, and match up with them, and they'll help you through it. Questions? Where are you going to go to school, Laura?
Got a whole table of flyers up there that were given to us. They had booths set up, and so people were, they were handing you all the information, goodie bags.
And they were crawling across the table to get to you.
Yes, they were, repeatedly we were told, find the best fit for you, and then we were told how much help there is financially out there for PhD programs. Several schools said they offered free tuition and stipends.
They didn't offer that for us, but
and multiple schools
good for
said
y'all.
that there was lots of grant money and financial aid available. So
yeah. Any questions? Any answers?
kudos to these students for taking
Absolutely.
advantage of the opportunity.
Yes.
Not everybody's willing to do that, and the students really get all the credit.
Proud of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done.